folks at the NAN convention with Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker. Hey, brother, how are you, man?
Every time I see you, it's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too, brother, and always good. So listen, man, let's talk, brother. Charlamagne says that you didn't feel comfortable talking about issues of race, and I must be honest with you, I don't get that. I don't. So you want to elaborate on that or something?
I love Charlamagne. I'm not sure for a guy who lives in a black and brown community who's been dealing with issues of race all my life, whose policies are targeted to trying to deal with racial injustice. So I'm not sure exactly where that comes from, but anybody who hangs out with me or looks at my legislative record, everything from things people don't even think of enough, like sickle cell anemia getting lower funding than other diseases that affect less people. I championed that bill, got it through Congress, and got it into law.
Of course.
Or to the criminal justice reform bill, which specifically starts to right some of the racial wrongs in the criminal justice system, like even just getting the crack cocaine, powder cocaine disparities retroactive affects about 2,000 people, 90% of whom are black. Mm-hmm. And then if you live in a community like mine, that was created by racist policies, redlining, mortgage disinvestment, FHA policies. So much of the work of my career has been trying to balance those scales and empower African American communities. We have a majority black city in Newark. Yeah. So I don't know about that. I guess the point is we have a lot of work to do, and I'm one of those people who is getting it done. And in fact, I'll give you the last example. Even when I came to the United States Senate, and I found it was one of the least diverse places I ever worked. Mm-hmm. I went to Chuck Schumer with my friend Brian Schatz and just said, we can't have entire committees that are forming policy that disproportionately affect African Americans, like the Judiciary Committee, and not have blacks in the room when it happens. Mm-hmm. And so we created a system now where if you're a Democratic senator, you have to report the data of the diversity of your staff.
That's right.
That alone creates accountability. So I'm probably the person in this race that has the best record of actually introducing bills and getting them passed that begin to right the wrongs that disproportionately affect African Americans. It's literally changed the culture of the Senate. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud to be the only person running for president that lives in a black and brown inner city community that's still struggling and in the fight, and that's where my loyalties lie.
Well, and as a black candidate, in fairness, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Kamala, because she's also a black candidate. All of our young people in the past few days have been talking about Brother Nipsey.
Yes.
And I mean, just the outcry, and people are tired, because we talk about Black Lives Matter. It's not only in the context of the police, but when we shoot and kill each other, or whatever's going on out here in the streets. And, you know, speak about that and what you could do as president to end some of the violence and conflict from within our own community.
So I live with this, man.
I know.
I had Shahad Smith shot at the top of my block last year. I live in a community where there are shootings. And as a black man, we are black men, 6% of the nation's population, but we make up the majority of the homicide victims. And when you live in an inner city like I do, you know, Ras Baraka, my mayor, has done a great job of pushing down the levels of violence, but you see these sidewalk shrines, you've been to those funerals. Right. So it's not just when an incredible man and a rapper, or somebody who's a celebrity gets horrifically murdered. This is an everyday thing in our communities. And so what can we do? Well, we have to stop being short-sighted. It's not just about gun violence, and we need to reform our gun laws, make for gun safety, universal background checks. I can show you the data, how these things make a difference to create safer communities. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I've been one of these people calling since I was mayor to treat violence like a public health issue. And they literally, you can see strategies that can deal with this is by understanding what this is. So let me give you an example of what people don't know. You know, lead poisoning actually affects your brain. It undermines your executive function that stops you from impulses. Mm-hmm. And so when you have literally 3,000 jurisdictions that have blood lead levels in our kids' blood twice that of Flint, Michigan. Mm-hmm. In Newark, New Jersey, we have kids drinking out of bottled water because we have an infrastructure in this country that's allowing so many of our children to be poisoned. So this isn't a one-thing flip. This is why I try to address this issue. Poverty, environmental justice issues, educational opportunity. These are the kind of things that really have to be addressed. And again, this is why if you look at my legislative record, when everybody wants to now legalize marijuana, I put forward the Marijuana Justice Act, which isn't just about legalization. It's also about expunging people's records. Mm-hmm. But even more so, when you are taking children's parents away and putting them in prison for doing things that 2 of the last 3 presidents admitted to doing, using drugs, those children suffer and their likelihood of going to prison themselves goes up. So I said enough is enough. With legalizing marijuana, we should expunge records and take the tax revenue from all of that and reinvest in the communities that have been disproportionately affected by the drug war. Because the drug war hasn't been an equal applied war. There's no difference between blacks and whites for using drugs or dealing drugs, but blacks are almost 4 times more likely to be arrested for it. So I live my life trying to focus on solving problems that are not just on